Good day, everyone. This is Junaid Khan. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and it has been a roller coaster of emotions from yesterday when Honorable Minister Marc appears on the media on September 18, 2024, and come up with a lot of different ideas and a lot of different changes in regards to the temporary residents, in regards to students, specifically those who are now eligible or going to be eligible for the application of work permit, postgraduate work permit, and specifically for those who are currently students right now. They are married and they are willing to call their spouses on a spousal open work permit. There are so many things that we have to discuss today, and I feel like the importance of the video today, because there are so many people are waiting for the confirmation. There are so many changes has been happening throughout this year. This year, starting from the January's, has been a roller coaster of changes in regards to the temporary resident visas, work permits, open work permits, and spousal work permits, and most importantly for students as well. Why I said the word most importantly, because I feel like that is the one category where a lot of students are readily pick Canada in regards to their further education, their bachelor's and master's and degrees, and they feel like this is a good opportunity in regards to finalizing their courses, getting a work permit for 3 years if they're eligible, and after that the PR pathway, the permanent residency pathways are going to be very easy for them as compared to other countries, comparing United Kingdom, USA, Australia, and the Europe side. But it feels like that things are not going to be the same if we compare to some previous years in Canada. There are so many changes that happened throughout this year. Initially, if we talk about the GIC expansion from 10,000 to 21,635, then there was provincial attestation letters, and after that, when people actually started applying for their visas, the approval ratio of the visas was not very well. Finally, in my previous videos, you can see that we got multiple approvals. We see that the approval ratio for the SDS plan and non-SDS as well, overall Canada side getting better. But today again there is another video from the Honorable Minister, and there are so many things. I try to note as many as I could, but I feel like I'm probably going to make other videos time to time to remind you guys what you should be thinking about if you are considering Canada for education, or finalizing your education and applying for a postgraduate work permit, finalizing if you're married and calling your spouse in Canada as well. So started from the very important point, and I feel like I will describe you guys a little bit in a way, because I watched multiple videos from yesterday, because it happened on 18th of September 2024. I'm making this video on 19th, and it is because of the time difference as well. I'm not currently in Canada. So I came across a lot of videos where people are basically taking few words in a different way, and I feel like I'm taking these words in a different way in regards to the interpretation of the interview of the Marc Miller. So in going down in this video, we will be talking about a few things which you might see differently in other videos or platforms. So first and the foremost, if I'm probably going to read the word by word as well, so that I can interpret it, which I feel like what I get from this particular sentence. So earlier this year, Refugee and Citizenship Canada announced a decrease in the number of temporary residents from 6.5% of the Canadian total population down to 5% by 2026. You will see that on my screen as well. So let's talk about this one particular sentence. A lot of people who are now engaged in getting a TRV for Canada, a temporary resident visa, a visit visa, study permits, or talking about the different criterias as well. But from this line, we are getting a perception that the percentage of these visas are cutting down from 6.5% of the Canadian population to the 5%. Now, this is important. Canada, usually, if we talk about, let's say, 5 years ago, the percentage was 4%. The rule Canada was following at that point was Canada is welcoming TRVs, the temporary resident permits, or immigrants, 4% of the Canadian population. So whatever the Canadian population is, they pick the 4% out of it and they call 4% of these people from around the globe to enter Canada. Now, in last couple of years, this percentage went up to 6.5%, which is basically kind of revoking its own rule of 4%. So now it has been 6.5%, which is a huge number if you compare to the 4%. So what Canada is conducting right now, the aim is to reduce that 6.5% to 5% by 2026. If you think about it, it is still 1% higher if you go a couple of years back. So 5% of the Canadian population will be welcomed by Canada in regards to the temporary immigrants. Now, this point, I feel like I've explained it well. If we go further, there are so many other changes in regards to cutting down the temporary resident permits, the study permit applications, TRVs, as well as the spousal open work permit. So the major change happened yesterday on September 18 was the students who are eligible to apply the postgraduate work permit, if they apply their postgraduate work permit on November 1st, 2024 or after, whoever is applying before November 1st, what I'm going to say is not going to be implemented on them. But if you are applying your postgraduate work permit on November 1st and after that, Marc Miller, the Honorable Minister of Immigration Canada, has announced that they have to take an IELTS test, which is going to be CLB 7 for if you are graduated from the master's degree and if or university, and if you are graduated from the bachelor's degree, then the CLB requirement will be CLB 5 basically. If I go deeper into this, I feel like this is not something which is not achievable for the student who is basically getting education in Canada from last couple of years. If you're talking about the bachelor's degree, if you're spending 4 years or more in Canada getting education, getting a CLB 5, we're talking about the college degree, getting a CLB 5 is not going to be a huge issue, and getting a CLB 7 for a master's program, a student who is graduating a master's degree from Canada, and you know Canada is offering 2 years of masters, that means you have spent 2 years in university and you have to get CLB 7 to basically get a postgraduate work permit after your education. If we think about it in that way, I feel like this is a good measure in regards to sorting out the students who are basically going to play an important role in the economy and getting a good jobs from the market. Thinking about this in that way, that if you are a master's graduate and you cannot achieve a CLB 7, Canada sort of thinks that, you know, the transferability of their skills and their English requirements is not up to the mark to fit in the market. And comparatively, similarly, if you're getting a CLB 5 and graduating from the college, and if you cannot take CLB 5, then again, you are not going to be a good fit for the market in regards to completing your education, getting into the work permit. So this is importantly, you guys have to mark the date, November 1st, 2024. If you are applying your postgraduate work permit, you need to clear the English proficiency test to apply for the postgraduate work permit. Okay, moving forward to one more important point, the limits on the spousal open work permit. So if we talk about the limitation on the spousal open work permit, Marc Miller specifically announced that they are going to limit these work permits going forward in this year. There is no specific criteria and the limitation, but Marc Miller, the Honorable Minister, has already announced that we are going to limit the spousal open work permits. Now, who can apply for a spousal open work permit? If you think about that way, if you are a student in Canada Okay, I want to stop here and go back in a time a little bit within this year that Canada has cut down the spousal open work permit for the bachelor student and if you are taking admission in the colleges. So it has already been stopped earlier this year that if you're applying in a college degree or if you're applying in a bachelor's level program, they were not really assigning the spousal open work permit. Basically, if you are married at that point and you want your wife or your partner or your spouse or your husband to be in Canada on a spousal open work permit, Canada has stopped that already earlier this year. But now the announcement has further decreased the number of spousal open work permit depending on the course, depending on what you are actually doing in Canada or studying in Canada. So what has been announced, like the limitation are not going to be assigned if you are an engineering student, professional, if you are a lawyer, depending on the healthcare sector, a construction worker, and there are further more courses or further more occupations. If you are currently in those occupations and if you are studying in those occupations, you might be eligible to apply for your spouses, but the numbers are going to be cut down to approximately 50,000 and in some cases 100,000 spousal open work permits going forward. There is no specific date announced yesterday when is that going to happen, but these are the measures are going to be taken care in further months of this year. So decrease in a temporary resident permits, decrease in spousal open work permits. Another measure to take before the students can apply their work permits, they have to take the English proficiency test. All of these measures sort of cutting down some pathways for a lot of people currently in Canada, specifically students, that if you are not up to the mark in regards to your knowledge transferability to the occupation, and if you are not really up to the mark in the English proficiency, things are going to be really tough for you guys. So you have to make sure that you have to do things in a way that you will be eligible for the postgraduate work permit, and later you will be eligible to apply for the permanent residency. Already, if you see, a lot of permanent residency pathways have been shut down as well. If you talk about a couple of years ago, there was tier to peer pathway where temporary residents can easily apply for their permanent residency. Courses are not going to be an issue at that point. Well, there is one thing: if Canada come up to the point where they can only apply for the postgraduate work permit can only be for the specific courses. Well, it is not announced yet. I'm just anticipating that if that is going to be the case, then it's going to be a huge mess in regards to the students who are already enrolled and spend a lot of time, money, energy into their courses. But again, I don't feel like this is going to happen, but again, I hope not. But in regards to the students, things are going to be streamlined in a way that you have to work, you have to study, you have to get a certain grades, you have to be on top of your English proficiency. And in regards to the spousal open work permits, you have to be in a certain fields to basically call in your spouse in Canada on a work permit. Everything is going to shrink. Things are certainly decreasing in regards to getting your permanent residency in Canada, even if you are in Canada right now and on a temporary residence. Thank you very much for listening, and we will come up with the more detailed picture of all these points as soon as we come across any news from the Honorable Minister Marc Miller. Thank you very much.